There's a town on the open prairie in South Dakota where the winter wind comes howling across 1,000 miles of frozen grass, and the temperature drops to 40 below zero. The nearest real city is a 3-hour drive down a 2-lane road that disappears into snow half the year. In January, the sun gives up in the middle of the afternoon, and the whole world turns the color of cold iron. And right now, more Americans are choosing to move to that state than almost anywhere else in the country. A lot of them are coming from California, from the sunshine, from the palm trees and the Pacific and the beaches people spend their entire lives trying to reach. They are leaving all of it behind, on purpose, for a place where the wind can freeze your breath before it leaves your mouth. We spent weeks burying the migration data on this, and at first it made no sense to us either. Because look at what the numbers actually say. In Bakersfield, California, only about 37 people are looking to move in for every 100 looking to get out. That is the worst ratio in the entire country according to Move Buddha's 2026 migration report. People are pouring out of the Golden State faster than anywhere in America, and the places they are pouring into are the coldest, the emptiest, and the most far-flung corners of the map. So we set ourselves one job. Answer the question everybody's really asking. Why? Why would anyone trade paradise for the middle of nowhere? We found 12 places they are running to, and we are going to count them down, one by one. Every single one of them looks like a mistake from the outside, and every single one of them makes far more sense than it looks the moment you see the real math underneath it. The one that makes the very least sense of all is number 2, and it stays that way right up until you see the number behind it. But we start somewhere gentler. Because before we get to the frozen plains, you have to understand a small beach town that is quietly beating every famous city in America. Number 12, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. On the surface, this one doesn't look crazy at all. It's a beach, warm Atlantic water, long stretches of soft sand, golf courses and boardwalks, and seafood shacks where the shrimp came off a boat that morning. The surprising part isn't the place. It's what the place is beating. Myrtle Beach is a resort town of only around 43,000 people, and it is the single most moved-to city in the entire United States, pulling in more than 3 newcomers for every 1 person who leaves. Sit with that for a second. Not Los Angeles, not New York, not Miami with all its glass towers. A modest town most Americans couldn't point to on a map is attracting new residents at a rate the big glamorous cities cannot touch. And it is not a fluke. South Carolina has been the #1 destination state in the whole country for 3 years running. You could wake up here to salt air and a paid-off house instead of a rent check that swallows half of what you earn. The homes cost a fraction of what a scrap of the California coast costs. The pace is slow in the exact way people always say they want their lives to be slow, and the winters are mild enough that you barely own a coat. The honest catch: summers are hot and heavy with humidity, hurricane season is a real thing you plan your life around, and the town fills shoulder to shoulder with tourists for months at a time. But for a retiree trading a cramped, overpriced coastal condo for a house near the water they can genuinely own, the trade looks awfully good. And if a warm beach town feels like an easy call, this next one is going to make you tilt your head. Because these movers skip the famous parts of Florida on purpose. Number 11, Ocala, Florida. Everybody understands why people move to Florida. Sunshine, no state income tax, the beaches, the theme parks. The surprising thing is not that they're going to Florida, it's where inside Florida they're landing. Not Miami, not Orlando. They are heading into the middle of the state, into horse country. Ocala sits in the rolling green heart of Florida, ringed by white plank fences and thoroughbred farms and enormous live oaks dripping with Spanish moss. It calls itself the horse capital of the world, and it is not bragging. This is quiet, open, agricultural Florida, the version the postcards forget exists. The number that matters here is momentum. Ocala has been one of the fastest climbing move to cities in the country, rising up in national rankings while the flashier coastal metros cool off and stall. The real reason is straightforward. You get all of Florida's tax advantages and all of Florida's warmth, but you trade the beach traffic and the beach prices for land, space, and a driveway long enough to actually mean something. For a family or a retiree who wants a few acres and a workshop instead of a high-rise and a shared parking garage, inland Florida is the deal the coast quietly stopped offering years ago. The catch is that you are no longer walking to the ocean, and Central Florida summers are their own particular test of endurance. But nobody is moving to Ocala for the beach. They are moving here for the room to breathe. Now we leave the warm states behind for good, because from here on, the map gets colder, emptier, and a whole lot stranger. Number 10, Wyoming. This is the least crowded state in the entire lower 48. You can drive an hour on a straight road and see more antelope than human beings. The wind never fully stops. The winters run long and hard. And there are counties out here bigger than some whole states with only a few thousand people scattered across them. And Americans are choosing it, deliberately. Picture what they're choosing, though. Snow-dusted peaks against a hard blue sky, wide golden basins rolling out to the horizon, and the kind of night sky most people have never actually witnessed because they have never been far enough from a city to look straight up and see it. This is elbow room on a scale that is genuinely hard to describe until you are standing in the middle of it with nothing around you. The number that sells Wyoming is the money. It is one of just 9 states in America with no state income tax whatsoever. Not a reduced rate. 0. And the land runs somewhere around $1,000 an acre in a country where the average value sits north of $4,000. That is the real reason. Somebody leaving a high-tax state can keep every dollar they earn, buy real acreage for the price of a used pickup, and own their own slice of the American West, free and clear. For a person who spent 30 years handing a fat chunk of every paycheck to the state, that math lands like a punch. The catch is honest and it is serious. The nearest hospital can be a long, cold drive. Services are thin on the ground, and winter out here is not a season you wait out. It is an opponent you plan around. But for the people choosing it, that silence and that space are the entire point. If empty mountains sound extreme, wait until you see where they are moving on the flattest, most overlooked ground in the country. Number 9, Nebraska. Say the word Nebraska to most folks, and they picture nothing at all. Flat, cold, corn, the place you fly over on your way to somewhere you'd actually rather be. It is practically the definition of a state nobody is supposed to want, which is exactly why it earns a spot here. Nebraska is one of the rural states quietly pulling in more residents than it loses, part of a heartland comeback that almost no one in the national conversation is talking about. And the reality on the ground is a good deal warmer than the reputation. Small cities with real, walkable downtowns, some of the shortest commutes anywhere in America, solid schools, and a cost of living well below the national line. Lincoln and Omaha have jobs, culture, and college town energy. Step outside them, and you can buy a good, sturdy house for what a down payment alone costs on either coast. The number that stands out is the stability. While the flashy pandemic boom towns overheated and then crashed back down, the steady middle of the country just kept quietly gaining ground year after year without any drama. The real reason people come is affordability without the gamble. You are not betting your savings on a hot market that might turn. You are buying into a place that was always cheap and probably always will be. With work you can actually land and a paycheck that stretches to the end of the month. The catch is the winters, the flatness, and the plain fact that the ocean is a very long drive in any direction you pick. But for a lot of families, boring and affordable beats exciting and broke every single time. Speaking of underrated, this next one hides some of the most beautiful country in America behind a reputation it flat out does not deserve. Number 8. Arkansas. Arkansas gets laughed at. It should not. Folded into the Ozark Mountains is some of the most stunning, wildly underpriced land in the entire country, and forecasters expect this state to be one of the strongest gainers in the years just ahead. Imagine clear rivers winding through forested green hills, morning fog burning slowly off the ridgelines. Little towns where a completely different pace of life is still just the normal way things are done. This is the American outdoors at a price that reads like a typo when your eyes are used to coastal numbers. What jumps out is that Arkansas keeps turning up in migration forecasts as a rising star right alongside the states people expect to see, while costing a fraction of every one of them. The real reason is a combination almost nowhere else can offer at once. Genuine natural beauty, mountains and rivers and deep forest, matched with some of the lowest housing costs anywhere in the nation. You are not forced to choose between scenery and affordability here. You get both in the same place. The catch is that jobs can run thinner out in the rural stretches, and you will absolutely want to confirm reliable internet before you commit to anything. But for a remote worker or a retiree, the Ozarks are one of the best-kept secrets left in the country. Now, this next one is almost a warning as much as it is a destination, because the people who moved here early already won, and the ones showing up now are running a little late. Number 7. Montana. Montana was the boomtown of the whole migration wave. Big sky country, the mountains, the rivers, the entire cinematic Western dream in one place. Everybody wanted in, and that is the paradox buried inside it. The rush was so enormous that prices climbed hard, and Montana has actually cooled off from its peak, sliding down from the runaway national favorite it used to be. But it is still pulling in more people than it loses. The dream is still real. Snowmelt rivers running cold and clear, trout the size of your forearm, valleys that open up in front of you like a painting somebody spent a lifetime on. If you have ever wanted to live somewhere that looks like a screensaver come to life, this is the place. What stops you cold is the fall from grace. A few years back, Montana was seeing close to 4 newcomers for every single person leaving. A number like that never lasts, and sure enough, it didn't. The real reason people still come is the lifestyle, plain and simple. Space, wilderness, and a version of America that feels older, cleaner, and less crowded. The honest catch is the part nobody likes to say out loud. You may already be too late for the bargain. Prices here have caught right up, and the deal the early movers locked in is mostly gone now. Which is the entire lesson of this whole list in miniature. A smart move stops being a smart move the moment everyone else finally makes it too. Our next stop swings all the way to the opposite corner of the country, somewhere cold, coastal, and further from the action than almost anywhere else you could go. Number 6. Maine. Maine is the far northeastern edge of the map. Rocky coastline, thick pine forest, brutal and honest winters, and a whole lot of empty miles between you and any major city. On paper, it is close to the opposite of where you'd expect a migration wave to be pointing. And yet forecasters put Maine among the states with the strongest inbound pull heading into the coming year. Picture the dream of it, though. Lobster boats bobbing in a working harbor at first light. Lighthouses on granite points. Wood smoke curling up in October. The leaves turning every shade of fire in a coastline that looks like it was carved out by hand. There is a stillness to Maine that people who grew up surrounded by noise find almost overwhelming the first time they feel it. What surprises you is that this remote, chilly state keeps landing near the top of the inbound forecasts, quietly outdrawing plenty of places with far friendlier weather. The real reason is a blend of space, safety, and a slower kind of life, supercharged by a wave of remote workers who realized they could keep the big city salary and drop the big city entirely. When your office is a laptop, the whole calculation changes overnight. The catch is real, and it is cold. The winters are long and dark, the heating bills stack up fast, and you trade a lot of convenience for a lot of quiet. But for the right kind of person, that quiet is not a cost at all. It is the reward. All right, before we get to the top 5 and to the places that make the very least sense of anywhere in America, one quick favor. If you have made it this far, you are clearly the kind of person who actually thinks this stuff through, instead of just complaining about rent. Do us one small favor and hit that like button. It genuinely helps this video reach other people who are quietly wondering the exact same thing you are wondering right now. That is all. Now let's keep going, because it is about to get strange. Number 5, Tennessee. Tennessee has turned into one of the most reliable magnets in the entire country, and Knoxville in particular is projected to be one of the very top inbound cities in America in the year ahead. The paradox here is a little softer, but it is real. People are leaving big, glamorous coastal economies for the hills of Appalachia, and they are doing it with a smile. The dream sells itself. Green rolling mountains, live music pouring out of every other doorway, warm summers, and real honest seasons without the punishing deep freeze cold. Nashville has the culture and the noise. Knoxville has the Great Smoky Mountains right out the back door. And the whole state carries a friendliness that folks from bigger, colder, harder places notice within about 10 minutes of arriving. The number that seals it is the tax story. Tennessee is another one of those 9 states with no state income tax at all. You keep what you earn, right down to the last dollar. The real reason is that rare trio lined up in one state: no income tax, reasonable housing, and genuine natural beauty. You are not sacrificing scenery for savings or savings for scenery. The catch is that the secret is well and truly out by now, and the popular pockets are getting pricier as more people pour in. But stacked up against what these movers left behind on the coast, Tennessee still looks like a gift somebody forgot to charge them for. Now hold on to something, because this next place is one of the most extreme paradoxes on the entire list. Number 4, Alaska. Alaska, the last frontier, the coldest, darkest, most remote state in the Union, where whole towns can only be reached by bush plane or boat, and the winter night can stretch on for weeks at a time. If you were forced to bet on the one place Americans would never in a million years flock to, you would put your money right here. You would lose that bet badly. Alaska has posted the single biggest jump in migration interest in the entire country, with inbound demand climbing by roughly a third in one single year. Almost nobody saw it coming, but stand in it for a moment. Glaciers the size of cities calving into the sea with a crack like thunder. The northern lights burning green and violet across the whole sky. Mountains with no names at all, because there are simply more of them than anyone ever bothered to name. Alaska is not pretty in the postcard sense. It is overwhelming. It is the closest thing left to genuine, untamed wilderness anywhere in America. The fact that changes minds is the money angle again. Alaska has no state income tax, and it is one of the only places on Earth that pays its residents just for living there, cutting every single resident an annual check straight out of its oil fund. The real reason is a specific kind of person doing a very specific kind of math. Space beyond imagining, real independence, in a state that hands you a check instead of reaching into your pocket. The catch is enormous, and you had better respect it. The isolation is total. The cost of everyday goods is high because it all has to ship in from far away, and the long darkness breaks people who show up unprepared for it. This is not a soft landing, but for the ones it calls to, nothing else on Earth comes close. From the last frontier, we go straight to the state that is flat out winning the migration race right now. Number 3. Idaho. Idaho does not look like a prize from the outside. Empty mountains, potato fields, small quiet towns, and a whole lot of nothing in between them. And it is the number 1 state in America right now for people moving in versus moving out, pulling in more than 2 newcomers for every single person who packs up and leaves. Set that ratio right next to Bakersfield's for a second. California is losing people faster than almost anywhere in the nation. Idaho is gaining them faster than everywhere. And a huge share of Idaho's newcomers are coming straight from California. The data shows Idaho takes in more than 2 Californians for every 1 Idahoan heading the other direction. The dream here is the Mountain West in its purest, cleanest form. Clear, cold rivers, endless forest, real winters, and glorious open summers, and an entire culture built around getting outside. 80% of Idaho's counties actually grew their population last year. This is not a blip on a chart. It is a stampede caught on camera. The real reason is a whole bundle of them at once. Lower costs than the coast, a genuinely booming job market in places like Boise, enormous amounts of public land you can wander for free, and a way of life that people fleeing crowded, expensive states are actively starving for. The catch is that a boom always comes with a bill. Boise's prices have jumped hard as the crowd arrived, and plenty of longtime locals are not thrilled about the influx changing their towns. But the migration data does not stutter. Right now, today, Idaho is winning. And that carries us to the one we promised you at the very start. The single destination that, on the surface, makes the least sense of anywhere in America. Number 2. Las Cruces, New Mexico. Look at Las Cruces on paper, and you would swear we typed something wrong. High desert, blazing, relentless sun. A city a huge share of Americans have genuinely never once heard of, sitting way out in the arid southern stretch of New Mexico, far from any coast, far from any famous skyline, far from just about everything. It is the number 2 most moved to city in the entire United States. Almost 3.5 people are looking to move in for every one looking to move out. In the whole country, only a single town beats it. Now picture the reality of the place. The jagged Oregon mountains turning deep pink at sunset. More than 300 days of sunshine a year. Wide, clean desert light. Green Chile roasting on every street corner when fall rolls in. And a sky so big and so clear at night that it feels like standing on a different planet. This is the quiet Southwest. The part nobody markets, and once people actually see it, a surprising number of them decide they are never leaving. Here is the fact that ties this entire video together. New Mexico has the cheapest farmland in the whole country. The USDA puts the state's average at around $725 an acre in a nation where the average value is more than $4,000. Now, in fairness, actual listings for a ready-to-use parcel run a good bit higher than that farmland average. So nobody should expect miracle prices on a build-ready lot with a road and a well. But the underlying truth holds. This is some of the most affordable land left anywhere in America. The real reason people are choosing Las Cruces is that same trio, one more time. Cheap land, low cost of living, and a warm, sunny, wide-open life that costs a fraction of what the coast demands. The honest catch is the one that matters most out in the desert, and it is water. This is dry country. Water rights are genuinely complicated. Wells are not a sure thing, and you have to do your homework carefully before you buy a single acre. But for roughly the price of being quietly squeezed out somewhere else, people are buying a whole different life out here in the sun. Which brings us all the way back around to where we started. The coldest, the emptiest, and the most improbable winner of them all. Number 1. South Dakota. We opened on that prairie town at 40 below, 3 hours from anywhere, and we told you that more Americans are moving to South Dakota than to almost anywhere else in the country. Now you finally get to see exactly why. South Dakota was the single biggest gainer in the entire nation last year. It pulled in around 11,000 more residents than it lost, the largest net migration increase of any state in the country. While high-cost places like California, Colorado, Massachusetts, and Illinois posted some of the biggest losses. Zoom out, and the scale is staggering. Nearly 15 million Americans moved in 2025. 88% of them said they did it to save money. 76% said they wanted better access to the outdoors. South Dakota happens to answer both of those at the exact same time. The dream here is unpolished, and it is enormous. The Black Hills, rising dark and forested out of the plains. The otherworldly rock of the Badlands. Wide gold prairie stretching out under a sky that simply refuses to end. Mount Rushmore carved into the distance, and open grassland in every other direction you turn. It is not soft, and it is not fancy. It is real, and it is yours. The fact that pulls it all together is the whole package at once. Homes here average around $310,000, comfortably below the national line. And South Dakota is one of those 9 states with no state income tax at all. You keep everything you earn in a place you can genuinely afford to own outright. The catch is the one you felt in the very first sentence of this video. The winters are savage. The distances are long and lonely. The services are thin, and that endless prairie wind will test your patience in ways you cannot fully imagine until you have lived a February out here. Nobody is pretending otherwise. But here is what we came to understand after all those weeks buried in the numbers. The people making these moves are not crazy. They are early. They looked hard at a beautiful, sun-soaked, opportunity-rich state they could no longer actually afford to live in. And they did the math that most of us are simply too comfortable to sit down and do. They traded a gorgeous cage they were only ever renting for a plain, honest place they could own free and clear. They gave up the beach, the skyline, and the perfect weather, and in exchange they got land, savings, breathing room, and a life with their own name on the deed. From the outside, leaving paradise for the frozen plains looks like a mistake somebody will regret. But every single place on this list tells the same quiet story underneath. Cheaper, freer, and theirs. Once you actually see the numbers, the crazy move starts to look an awful lot like the smart one hiding in plain sight. Because that is the thing about a genuinely good decision. It almost always looks completely insane right up until the day everyone else finally catches up. One quick honest note before you go. None of this is financial or relocation advice. Migration data and living costs shift constantly, so please verify every single number for your own situation before you make any move of your own. And if this made you look at that expensive place you are living in tonight a little differently, subscribe. We dig into the real numbers behind the stories everyone else just reacts to, and there is a lot more of this coming.